you don't know, that means we're from the state of Indiana. And I met him at the last Self Reliance Fest. Really good dude. Doing some cool stuff in terms of fitness preparedness, right?
That's right.
So I'm just gonna hand it on over, and yeah, rock and roll. Yep.
All right, so since we just had some lunch, I want to give everybody on their feet first. And let's just go through some really quick stretching mobility work, okay? Because you know, you start getting the itis after you eat, right?
Right.
Or at least I do, I get real sleepy. So, feet together, you're gonna push your palms up into the ceiling. Okay, and I want you to just reach, but relax. Okay, don't make it stressful. Just reach, continue to open up your palms, continue to try to point the palms into the air. Okay, like you're holding something above your head. All right, just relax. Keep that reach. Breathe in, breathe into the rib cage. Okay, good. Now, we're gonna take that on down. So we're just gonna fold up, gently reach. If it feels like something's pulling, then just chill out. And we're just gonna slowly get to the floor, okay? Just relax. We don't want a bunch of tension. Just relaxing down into it, okay? There you go. Slowly come back up. And now we're gonna give some self hugs. So across the body, on out. Across the body, on out. It's just a little easy peasy to wake everybody up a little bit, okay? All right. Good, thank you. All right. So, I'm Steven, aka Coach. I respond to both. First, and I want to make this a little more conversational and a little less like I'm talking at you, so I'm going to get a lot of feedback from you. But we're going to start off. I want to go over some challenges that preppers will face if they're not physically fit, and then we're going to talk about the solutions to those challenges after. Okay. So let's get two people with two things that would be a challenging situation that a prepper could potentially face. You can make it like an everyday thing, or like the worst case scenario, shit, it's a bad thing.
Lift heavy shit.
What's that?
Lift heavy shit.
Lift heavy shit. I like it. How many times throughout the day, especially if you're homesteading, how many times do you have to carry around heavy shit? Probably pretty regularly, right? And your example was?
Bar breaks down.
Bar breaks down. So now you might have to hoof it. You might have to actually walk to where you want to go, right? And we could spend the entire time going through scenarios. I am going to give out a bunch, and this is not a comprehensive list by any stretch of the imagination, but just some things to consider, kind of like a wake-up call if you feel like there's something lacking in your ability to do said thing. So I've broken these up into two sections. The first one is security and emergency. We'll go through security issues first, okay? So what if you're here with John? All right, John has you on the security patrol, or you know, you have your own organization, you guys go on security patrol. Well, if you're not fit, you're going to probably become sleepy during that process, right? If you're bored just kind of staring out into the woods, it's really easy to drift off, okay? Being fit will keep you more alert and awake, okay? That seems to be an important thing if you're looking out for a potential danger. Along the lines of security as well, we have home invasion scenario. Okay, what if you had to deal with somebody trying to break into your property and or house? Well, it would behoove you to be capable enough to respond to that threat, right? This is a super, super worst case scenario, but gunfighting, okay? If you are actually find yourself in a position, which first of all, if you find yourself in the position of a gunfight, you may have messed up somewhere along the line because you should just try to avoid it at all costs. But if you can't, are you fit enough to move quickly? Okay, can you? Right? Can you do that? Is that easy? Is that hard? If you cannot move quickly, you're a target standing still, okay? And people like that do not last long at all. Being fit also gives you the capability to be confident in what you're doing, okay? Which is also a security issue. Okay? If you're confident in your ability to handle a threat, not only does that potentially help with the threat, but this allows you to actually be more kind and gentle with people, for lack of a better term, okay? So if somebody, have you ever heard the term where like the most dangerous people are the people that don't know what they're doing, or the people that have never been in a situation, that kind of thing. And then your last security situation is an active shooter, okay? What if you're at the mall? What if you're at the church? What if you're at the synagogue? Whatever, and somebody comes in with some weapons and wants to do everybody harm? Well, do you have the balance, speed, and coordination to get away? Because that's going to be a very chaotic situation. You're going to have people running left and right. You can trip over them. They can trip over you. Do you have those three capabilities in order to get you out of that situation? So in emergency challenges that we might face as preppers is a car crash. Can you get yourself out of a car accident? Or conversely, can you help get somebody, can you pull somebody to safety? Okay? So a real story from my own life, not a proud moment at all. I crashed one of my cars because I had been drinking too much. I went across all 4 lanes of highway, ran smack dab into the middle of the median. By the grace of God, no one hit me as I went across those 4 lanes. So it totaled my car, airbag goes off. And if you've ever been in an explosion like that, it's just like playing a Call of Duty game, where like everything's like, and like the whole room's moving. It's really crazy. So after everything stops moving, okay, I try to open my door. The door is shut. It is not moving. It's all crumpled together. Okay. Well, eventually I was able to just shoulder rush the thing open because I'm a pretty big guy and I've been lifting weights for a while. So it's something to think about. If you were in an accident, can you get yourself out of it before it catches fire or something else happens, right? Or if you're actually under attack, you're going to want to get out of there and not sit around and be sitting duck, right? Another emergency, a car crash into water. And this is like worst case scenario in a car crash, okay? So can you break the glass to free yourself? Are you capable enough to do that if you don't have one of those nifty glass break things in your car, which I would suggest everybody has. Okay? And on top of that, once you get out, if you're already in the water, are you fit enough to actually hold your breath and swim to the surface? Sounds easy enough, but I found most people have a really hard time holding their breath for 30 seconds. And that doesn't get you very far when you're underwater, especially if you swim slowly. Now, this one, I use a lot, but it's more pertinent now than ever. A flood. What if you're in a flooding situation and you have to make it to higher ground? Okay? Well, what are you going to need to do that? You're going to be able to get on top of some kind of structure. So, are you strong enough to pull yourself up onto a garage or a roof or this room? Okay? Things to think about. What if there's a house fire and you have to get out of the house fire? What if you were on the second story and the first story catches fire? Well, you can't go down the stairs. If you have an elevator, you can't do that. If you're smart, if you're a good prepper, you have one of those ladders that you can chuck out the window and climb down. Well, do you have the balance and coordination to be able to do that successfully? Also, are you light enough to make that easy? Can you fit within the constraints of that ladder? They have weight limits. If you exceed that, you're going to plummet, and it's going to be a bad day for you. We have friends and family medical emergencies. So another true story in having to do CPR. Has anyone that had to do CPR on somebody?
I'm a paramedic, so I do it weekly.
Awesome. So then you know it takes a reasonable amount of effort.
A lot.
Right. And what if you have to keep up while performing CPR with somebody for a sustained duration until you're relieved by the next level of care, right?
Yeah, after 2 minutes, you're smoked.
You're smoked. It's almost
hard.
like fighting somebody, right?
It
like
is.
after 2 minutes, like seems like a freaking eternity.
Forever. Well said.
Emergency relocation. or slash if your car breaks down? Well, can you put on your gear and march for miles and miles to get where you want to go? If it's like a disaster movie, well, what happens first? Well, there's gridlock on the highway, and you can't, your cars are therefore worthless. So if you want to move, you're going to have to throw it on your back and walk. Well, walking is one thing, but walking with a 70-pound backpack is a completely different thing. So if you're not fit and strong, that is going to be very difficult, if not impossible for you. What if there's like a tree down that's blocking the road? This is another true story. I'm leaving my mom's house. She used to live in like the middle of nowhere, Indiana. I'm leaving my mom's house one night, rainy night, stormy, and the storm had wound up knocking a tree completely over, and it crossed the entire road. Luckily, I was paying enough attention that I didn't run it over, so I stopped and, okay, well, I'd like to go home, because this is pretty much the only way out. I could have went like a half an hour out of my way and then gotten home. Like, no, let's see what we can do. So luckily, I was able to pick up one end, move it over, and throw it. But if you're not strong enough to deadlift that kind of weight without throwing your back out, that's going to be a serious issue, right? And finally, an emergency situation, like a boat overboard situation. What if you're on a big ship, cruise ship, what have you, and you're tossed overboard, and no one notices, all right? Are you strong and fit enough to tread water for an hour? Just something to ask yourself. So, can we all agree that being fit and strong would be a boon to all of these situations? Right? That makes sense? Okay. So, what exactly is fitness? Well, I looked up the definitions, and I'll give you mine, because I think the definitions are, one is funny and the rest are stupid. So, if you look up in the Webster's Dictionary what fitness is a state or condition of being fit. That's like saying these snozberries taste like snozberries, right? It's like, okay, that doesn't tell me anything. 2, the definition is good health. Okay, that kind of makes sense. But you could still be in good health and not actually be strong and capable and fit. So that's not particularly helpful. 3, this is my favorite funny one. The extent to which an organism is able to produce offspring in that particular environment. So evidently you're fit if you can produce offspring.
That's like ecological definition.
Yeah, so it's like, okay. Sure.
I like it.
Yeah. So what fitness really is the ability to perform the task. Okay, so in our situation, our fitness is, can we get through, are we strong enough to get through these situations that I laid before you? If so, yes, your fitness is good because you were able to overcome that task. If not, then your fitness is poor. So why do plans to get fit typically fail? Now, if you're thinking about getting fit and strong yourself, take notes through this, because if you reverse engineer this, this is the path to success. Okay, I'm going to lay it out as a problem, but turn it around and you'll know what to do. Okay? So the first reason why things fail is people don't have a plan. Okay? It's just, I'm just going to go to the gym. Cool, but what are you going to do? So if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? That's the same for anything you're trying to pursue. Another thing that goes on with the no plan is people just think, I'm just going to run. I'm going to do some cardio, I'm going to run. Surely that works, right? Well, no. Did the ability to run help in most of these situations? Not really. It'd be helpful. People have no workout plan. Okay? The crappiest workout plan that you get from bodybuilding.com that you do precisely over the course of months, even though it's stupid, is still going to yield better results than the best plan ever designed by moi that you do not do. Okay? Or you do sporadically. Okay? So having some kind of plan, even though it's less optimal, is still better than nothing at all, or trying to wing it, or just trying to work on the things you like to do. Okay? Having no meal plan is also not a plan at all. Well, what are your goals, which is what we're going to get into. but your meal plan needs to reflect said goals. I'm guilty of this in my own practice years ago. I thought I could out-exercise a bad diet. Like, okay, I'm a badass. I spend 3 hours in the gym. I sweat like a freaking hog. I just crush it. Well, surely I can booze it up on the weekends and eat whatever crap I want through the week. Well, it doesn't work. I tried it. I tried it for years. It does not work. So don't do that, okay? Something else that you'll find a lot, going back to kind of like a lot of the programs you'll see from like a Men's Health and Fitness or bodybuilding.com is a culprit of this, is they have workout plans designed for enhanced people, aka people on some kind of steroids or growth hormone. Okay, they don't tell you that. It's the same kind of thing that like when somebody's getting ready for a movie role, like an Avenger or something like that, they get them on steroids. They don't talk to you about that, but this is what they do, and it's fine. They're looked over by a team of doctors, but taking that same workout program is not going to work the same way for you and I that are not on that kind of steroid program. Okay, so just something to be aware of if you're looking for workout plans. And the last thing that go with no plan is just no understanding of substitutions. Okay, if you're in a busy gym and Douchey McDoucherson is doing curls in the squat rack, which is the cardinal sin of gyms, and he is, 300 pounds of bulking muscle, well, you can't really tell him to stop, right? He would just flatten you into the ground like a pancake. You're supposed to do squats in your day, but you can't say anything to him because he'll just kill you. So you need to know, okay, well, what pattern is that, and how can I substitute it with something else? Because I don't have 3 hours to let him finish curling in the squat rack. I need to get my workout in now because I have things to do. The second reason plans typically fail is there's no accountability. Okay? Accountability is key. That is the honest truth why like personal training is so effective is because you are accountable to somebody. Okay, you are spending your money and your time with that person, and they are going to keep you accountable to that appointment and to the results thereof. Okay? So will you hire a personal trainer or a coach for that accountability? That's certainly an option. It's a good option. If you decide that you don't want to afford that, or you're not interested, well, can you have a workout buddy? You have a friend that will actually go work out with you. It makes it way more fun. You still get that accountability aspect. And again, even if it's kind of a suboptimal training program, you're going to see good results because you're helping keep each other accountable. When I started my fitness journey forever ago, that's what I did. Me and my buddy would go 7 a.m. We'd hit the gym every single day, and it was great. And if you can't do either of those two things, can you at least find an accountability partner? Can you get your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, best friend to at least check up on you, to at least kind of hound you about it? Hey, have you gotten your workout in today? Just that level of minor accountability will help a ton in your retention. Because this is not, a lot of people think, oh, I can work out for a month or 3 and this will be great. Well, you probably didn't lose your health and fitness in 1 to 3 months. You're not going to gain it back in that short period of time either. So you want to play the long game in these things. The third reason why people fail is they don't have time. This is one of the biggest things that I get pushback for when I'm doing an initial consultation with a potential client, is there's never enough time, because we live in this busy society where we wear being busy like a badge of honor, right? But if I then asked, oh, have you seen the new Game of Thrones? Oh, that is a great show. That is fun. Oh, those dragons, oh, those are best. Yeah, I love it. Okay, well, you have time to do that. You have time to melt your brain and do squat, sitting on the couch for an hour, where you could work out for half an hour and get phenomenal results. So it's all about what's important to you. You're going to spend your time on what's important. So just making excuses and saying you have no time is just that. This is an excuse. And I find that oftentimes, and women are particularly bad about this, is they don't prioritize themselves. Okay? So you have to look at your physical capability as like a cup. Okay, we need to fill our own cup so that we can then pour into the lives of others. If our cup is empty, we got nothing to pour out. If our energy is shit, if we can't think clearly because we're not healthy, well, you can't really teach or help anybody else in much of a meaningful way, so you have to fill your cup first. So it's worth spending that time, so then you can spend that time with others. And I mean, I've trained several Fortune 500 CEOs. They are busier than anyone here, and they make time for it because they understand that premise. Okay, so I just encourage you, if you're not making time for it, make some time for it. It doesn't even take a lot of time. The last reason people will usually have issues is they have no goals. So, when you're making your goals, which is critical, I wish these weren't here, but your goals need to be SMART goals, okay? So they're specific, they're measurable. So specific meaning, I want to lose 20 pounds, even though I hate like weight loss goals, at least it's something, so that's fine. Goals I like more are, okay, I can't do a push-up strictly on the ground, I'd like to be able to do it. Great, that's a great performance goal, because a lot of times your weight loss will come along with performance goals, but it's not always the other way around. And if you focus on the weight loss a lot of times, you can get discouraged because it's not a linear thing, it kind of goes up and down. Or, my favorite is, I specialize in corrective exercises first and foremost. So if I get some older person that just has knee, hip, ankle pain, and their goal is simply, you know what, I want to be able to walk up my stairs pain-free and not be winded. That's a goal. That's very specific. It's measurable because we can just have you go up the stairs and see if you have pain or not, and if you're winded or not. Is it achievable? Well, unless you're wheelchair bound, probably. Is it realistic? As long as you're walking, yes. And is it timely? You need to set some kind of time restriction on how long you would like that to take. And obviously the coach could give you a better idea of that. If you don't know, just guess. Show yourself some grace. I want to do this in a month. I want to do this in 3 months. Okay? Now, along with that, I want you to have reasonable expectations. So if you are vastly overweight, well, you didn't get there in a month, but for some reason people think they're going to lose it all in a month. Well, that's not the way it works, and it's always harder to lose than it is to put on. It takes way more time and effort. And kind of going back to that stairs scenario, living pain-free is a good goal by itself. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so don't feel like that's not enough and you have to conquer the world. Okay. So, does anybody know some of the implications, both physical and mental, of not being healthy and fit? Does anything just kind of pop into somebody's mind? Dialogue earlier. I like that one.
Depression.
That one is also excellent.
What did he say? I didn't hear.
He said you'll die a lot earlier,
Oh.
which is actually very true.
Yeah.
And depression is huge. So that's the first one. So we're gonna talk about the physical implications of not being fit and the mental implications. So the first physical is, I call it the anti-prepper. Your risk of all-cause mortality goes up if you are not fit. If you are a giant overweight person, you are much more difficult to operate on. You can ask our paramedic friend, you're much more difficult to render first aid to. But it's not just that, your risk of all-cause mortality goes up. So, I mean, you're at the risk of increased rate of any kind of metabolic disease or disease for that matter, across the board, okay? So, we're here as homesteaders and preppers, right? So we don't want to be anti-prepper by not being at least at base level of health and fitness. You have low energy and stamina. So then the small tasks of life, well, they take a lot more energy. They're a lot more problematic for you. If you're going to the gym every day, I've seen it countless times over the last 10 years, it just gives you more energy. And who doesn't like that? You can get more stuff done. Your chronic issues of diabetes, cancer, heart disease, arthritis, back pain, obesity, and osteoporosis, all of those go up through the roof. You have an increased risk of injury because if there's just more weight on your frame, it's bad on your joints. You also have usually worse balance. Now, I see this a lot, is you you'll have poor sleep and potentially insomnia if you're not physically fit. And then that'll lead to a whole cascading of events where that causes a bunch of other health issues just by not getting enough sleep. I don't know how many times I've had new clients after like a week or two say, well, I'm sleeping a lot better. Yes, that is hugely important. You have poor flexibility, mobility, and balance. So going back to some of our emergency scenarios, if you have to get the heck out of an active shooter situation, God forbid, and there's people moving and running and all this stuff, and you just fall over, well, you might be the first target for the active shooter, right? Because you ain't moving. You have a poor muscle strength and muscle to fat ratio. So as we age, unfortunately, our muscle will start to deteriorate. Now, resistance training will keep it to where it's at. And you can even grow muscle at any age. So be encouraged by that. But it'll naturally decrease, and it decreases relatively quickly if you're not training. You just have more daily joint muscle aches and pains. Sitting is the new smoking. Has anyone ever heard that saying?
Yes.
It's like pretty popular right now, but it's actually very true. I see it every day. I've seen it a lot just today in doing some mobility work with people. It locks up your hips, it locks up your hamstrings, you have low back pain. It's a nightmare, and it's all preventable from being a little more active. And you have a poor immune system response. Does that sound familiar? Pandemic, anyone?
Mm-hmm.
So it would behoove us to have a better immune system response from this virus that was engineered in a lab in Wuhan than not, right? And we have mental implications for not being fit. Decreased mood and depression. Huge, because you get a release of endorphins after a workout. It'll make you feel better about everything. I know if I'm listening to too much doom porn, and for whatever reason I decided to listen to Alex Jones that day, then I get kind of down, like, we're all screwed, the New World Order is going to take over, whatever. Well, if I just go destroy the weight room, all of a sudden I'm like, I'm probably all right. Right? It just helps with the mood. Or if you're dealing with marital issues, boyfriend-girlfriend issues, it just really helps clarify. Or just like business, anything. It doesn't even matter. A good workout will just really help you clarify what you need to do to move forward. Along with that, you have decreased mood. So morale could be something that's very important in some kind of end of the world scenario, right? You would want your mutual assistance group or the people you're doing life with in those situations, you would want the morale to be pretty high so you could actually do things, right? At least as high as you can get it. Well, if everybody's all slovenly and they have a poor mood anyway, that's only going to get a lot worse because of the situation. Okay? Now, you have low confidence if you're not fit. And this is something else I can speak to as an expert. For the longest time in high school, Anna Sullivan, hopefully my wife doesn't watch this. Anna Sullivan, hottest girl in school. Well, I never had the balls to approach her. I'm like, I'm just a chubby kid, nah. Well, come to find out after high school, she was interested in me too. But nothing ever happened because I just lacked the confidence to even say hello. So how could your life be different if, that is relationship opportunities, business opportunities? What could you be missing out on if you don't have the confidence just to talk to people? You have increased anxiety and stress if you're not fit. I mean, we're not designed to live the cubicle lifestyle, even though we're all kind of, well, not here. But a lot of people out in the world are pigeonholed into that lifestyle. We're not designed for that. It makes you anxious and stressed out. And this is the big one. It gives you an inability to think clearly or rationally. The last 2 years, anybody? Have we not seen endless irrationality in the society? Where you can essentially, I do this all the time with some of my clients that are lefties. You can like prove something to them and they just have this cognitive dissonance. Oh, no. They don't want to hear it. Well, that only is that much worse if you can't think clearly to begin with because you're not healthy and fit. So, how much time we got?
You got 30.
All right. So how does one become fit or increase their fitness capability? All right, the key is resistance training, lifting weights. That is key, especially for women. Men, we kind of like want to look like Marvel superheroes anyway, so it kind of goes with the territory. But luckily, over the last 10, 15 years, the stigma of women lifting weights has actually started to go away because it's critically important. And no, it will not make you bulky. You will not look like a female bodybuilder if you're in the gym even 5 days a week, okay? You don't make enough testosterone for it to do that to your body, okay? It'll just make you slender, it'll make you attractive and capable, okay? So resistance training is the key. So, how do we break down resistance training? The purpose of resistance training is to break down muscle. As you're doing an exercise, you're creating tears in your musculature, which your body then has to repair. Well, because your body is cool, it will actually repair, it'll build back better. And your muscle, after the course of 48 to 72 hours, will actually grow back bigger and stronger than it was before. And you rinse and repeat that cycle. Okay. Now, muscle is hard to build. Okay, it takes a lot of effort to actually do so. Your body is always wanting to be in a place called homeostasis, where that's just to say that wherever you're at now, your body's pretty happy with that, and it's going to take a lot of external stimulus to get you out of that. Okay, so you're actually going to have to like put in some work in the gym to actually upset that homeostatic point. Now, and yes, those results come from hard work. Now, hard work comes from doing more over time. This is a principle called progressive overload. And all that is to say that you need to be doing more than you did last time, okay? So if I gave you 3 workouts to complete throughout the week, and you did, whatever the first week, well, the second week, you need to be adding reps, or weight, or time, or I could change a bunch of variables. But you need to be doing more than you did last time, and that will yield long-term results. This is why things like dance classes, F45s, like all those boutique style group fitnesses, like they'll work for about a month, and then you're probably going to see either a complete stagnation of results or it's going to slow down significantly because they don't change. They're just ultimately designed to get you sweating, and they have all these like maximum 20-pound weights. Okay, so you need to be pushing the envelope continuously to see those lifetime results. Muscles in men and women are essentially the same. So anybody that tells you that like men and women need to lift weights differently, that's not true. You respond in very much the same manner. There's some things I would change personally if somebody asked me, but overall, keep it the same. And endurance training, aka running, is something that's like a bonus if you're trying to lose a lot of fat, but that's not the key. Okay, lifting weights and controlling what you're eating is the key. Now, what does proper resistance training actually look like? Okay, now you have 2 types of movements. You have isolation movements and compound movements. So, can anyone give me an example of an isolation movement? Bicep curl. The ever famous bicep curl. So if we're just doing this, yeah, we're isolating just the bicep, okay? Now there's nothing wrong with that, but if you want to get results faster, especially if you have a lot of weight to lose, or if you don't care about getting bigger, you just want to become more capable in your fitness, then compound movements are the way to go. Can somebody give me an example of a compound movement?
Squat.
Yes. So it's something that involves multiple muscles and multiple joint angles. So, what we have here, these are the primal movement patterns. These are all compound exercises. And when you are designing your own workout program, if you're looking for a workout program, or the way that I design everything, is we're going to make sure to check all these boxes each and every time. So that way you have a well-rounded, resilient body that can be up to any task, and you're not lacking in one particular thing. So, everybody stand up. Let's practice the movement pattern. So, these are somewhat in order of importance. Really more these 3, not so much these 3. So the squat. If you cannot squat, you are not long for the earth. when people break their hips or they're about, I mean, seriously, like if you cannot squat down to a seat or a toilet with your own body weight just nice and under control, you will probably die shortly thereafter, okay? Because you're gonna fall and break a hip, and then after you break a hip, your mortality is like something like 80%, like it's just silly. So, the proper way to squat is you wanna keep two things in mind. One, you wanna keep what's called a tripod foot. So feel your feet, feel where your balance is. You want even pressure behind your big toe, your little toe, and your heel. We don't want to rock back onto the heels. We certainly don't want to be just on their toes. That's horrible for the knees. So even pressure between those 3 points. The second thing is we want a nice flat lower back or lumbar spine. So if you watch me, okay, cool. I can keep my back reasonably flat. Well, I can also do this, but what do you notice? My back is curved, right? We don't want to curve our back under a load. So we want to only squat as low as we can manage while keeping this nice long lower back and the tripod foot. So everybody try 3 reps. Squat down nice and easy. Feel your balance on your feet. And just squat as low as you're able to while keeping that long lower back. It's nice and easy, not stressful. Pay attention to where your weight goes in your feet. Pay attention, does it hurt in your back? Does it hurt in your knees? Or does it feel good? Nice and easy. Cool?
So
All right.
if you have pain in your knees from injuries in the hips, you just don't go as far and just listen to your body.
Yes, you cannot go as far. I would line you up differently. Like rather than having your feet out, I would have you totally straight. And there's some other things that we can look at. But yeah. The second most important thing is the hip hinge. This is something that women are usually really good at and men are not, because we don't dance usually if we're white. Okay? So a hip hinge is a pure movement from the hip. We want to be able to bend, feel our hamstrings and our glutes come on, and come right back up. What you don't want is to feel it in your lower back. As you are resistance training, we never want to feel anything in our lower back. Okay? So we can have hands on hips, we're going to square up, and we're going to push the butt backward. I think like your tailbone's getting drawn up into the ceiling by a string. And you should feel some fullness in your glutes, and ideally a stretch in your hamstrings, okay? If you feel it in your lower back, you could be very tight today, or we just need to work on that pattern. But this is critically important. Why? Because we sit too damn much, and all this becomes short and tight. And then your body is cool, because it always has an auxiliary system to make you move, to control locomotion. So if you can't move through your hips, where is it going to get its mobility?
Your back.
Your lower back. It'll make up the difference. And then you've got a whole host of other problems, and then you got to go see David, because he's a chiropractor and he'll fix you up. Okay? So let's try that 3 times. Square up, and just hinge from the waist.
Straight knees or lock?
Oh, that's a great question. You do not want to lock your knees.
Okay.
Now you'll feel it more in your hamstrings if you lock your knees, because you're putting them on a greater stretch. But you can also destroy your knees doing that. So you just want to think soft knee. Okay. So there's going to be a very slight bend in it. Okay. So your typical exercise is like a deadlift when you're picking something off the ground. That is a hip hinge. Okay. So this is not only useful for the weight room and to offset sitting, but to teach us how to pick up things properly if we're home sitting and doing all that kind of thing, right? The next thing is gait. Gait is simply walking. So in the weight room, we can simulate that through a myriad of exercises. Today we're going to do a split squat, okay? So everybody's going to stand feet together. You're going to slide one foot backward. And you want this back foot, you want the heel up in the air, so you're on your toes. The front foot, I want you to think about that tripod. Okay, nice even weight distribution in the front. We're going to start with a little hip hinge. We're going to push the butt back a little bit, and then we're going to travel straight down. Let those knees bend, and we're just going to go as low as we can while keeping that nice low lower back. Okay, long lower back rather. So let's do 3 per leg. Nice and down. We want to keep that back heel up. We want to be able to maintain our balance. And we want feet, knees, hips, everything facing forward like you're on railroad tracks, okay? Then get a feeling for the other leg. Oftentimes without training, one side is going to be a lot harder than the other side, okay? just sit on back. Take a mental note. Does it feel easy? Does it feel hard? Do you have pain? If so, where? Just kind of take a mental note of that. Ideally, you feel it in your butt and in your quad in the front as you're doing it. Okay? So that's a simple chain exercise, which obviously helps with our balance and strengthening our legs. Carry. So who's a fan of rucking in here? That is the carry. Okay, that is the carry pattern. It is when we have weight on us somehow and we're just going for a walk / run. So I made a YouTube video because all the prepper community seems to think that rucking is the best exercise ever and that's all you have to do. Well, no, because it's only one of the primal movement patterns. So yes, if you had to put a bunch of weight on your back and move, cool, it helps you to do that. It does not help with anything else. Okay, so it's short-sighted. So with that, you could ruck. I'll have clients do farmer walks in the gym. So you just pick up some really heavy weights, dumbbells. I'll go for a walk for a certain distance. Okay. And also just be careful with your rucking. This can be hard on your knees. It can be hard on your lumbar spine if you're not actually aligned properly in the first place. So if it's beating you up, don't just think, well, I'll do it more and I'll just get stronger. No, you're just not aligned properly. You're probably going to make it worse. Okay. Pull. Pull is any time we're taking something out in front of us and pulling it to ourselves, or anytime we're pulling ourselves to something else. So obviously the best example of that is a pull-up. Okay. Getting ourselves onto something higher in case it floods or we're escaping from a dog or whatever. Okay. The push. The push is the opposite of that. It's anytime we are pushing ourselves away from something or something away from us. So obviously the push-up is a prime example of that. And core exercise. That can be a myriad of things, but the thing I'll leave with you is focus on core structure first. So you're thinking about things like planks, things where you have to maintain a position for an extended period of time or under a bunch of load is way more important and will yield better results than doing sit-ups and stuff like that. The sit-up ultimately is a stupid exercise. Okay, so it can be hard on your back. Okay, so I always use the coat hanger analogy. You remember, now they're usually plastic, but like those old metal coat hangers that you could bend, well, what happened with the metal coat hanger if you keep doing this? Eventually it breaks. Well, your spine is kind of like that. You can only take so much flexion, especially under load, before something is going to give and you're going to herniate a disc or whatever. So sit-up is a dumb exercise, okay? That's not going to get you six-pack abs. Just losing body fat is going to get you six-pack abs, okay?
Well, I got a keg abs.
There you go. Cool. All right. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Everyone can sit down if you want to. So now that you know those movement patterns, again, you want to incorporate all of these things in your training. Okay. If you're missing one, then you're not going to be able to do something. We're going to have some muscle imbalances and some issues down the road. Form and technique is key to lifetime progress. Okay. If you move on to a bigger weight and all of a sudden your form and technique goes to complete crap, you're not helping yourself out any. That's going to lead to injury. So we need to change something else first and then try the heavier weight at a later time. Okay? In your workout, you want to do your mobilization work first before you hit the weights. So this can look like breathing and release work, which I'm teaching a lot over at my booth. Some light stretching, things of that nature. Hitting the treadmill or the elliptical for 5 minutes is not a warm-up. Okay, we're trying to prepare the joints for movement and for load, which the treadmill does not do. Okay. And the saying, even though I kind of like it, but the no pain, no gain to Arnold. Yeah, that's a dumb saying. Okay. Now you can have muscle soreness, that's cool, but if you have like joint soreness, like actual pain, like it feels like something's stabbing into your shoulder or whatever, don't keep doing that thing because you're not going to make it better. Okay, more than likely. So we need to have another exercise or another version of said exercise for you to continue to be successful. Like I touched on before, you're always trying to eat more each workout. And it can be even a little bit. I see this all the time with push-ups and pull-ups specifically. most times people will only start off being able to do a few pull-ups or 0, or a few push-ups or 0. Well, if you can only do 5 and the next workout you can do 6, great. It doesn't seem like a lot, but that 1 rep will build up over the course of a month. And you'll go from doing 10 of whatever to 15 of whatever before you even realize it. So even 1 extra rep is enough stimulus for you to keep seeing progress. Okay? And don't be afraid to make modifications because something does feel bad, because you're injured, your heart rate variability is too crazy that day. I mean, a myriad of reasons, but don't be afraid to substitute things out. So, for example, again, going to the row that's curling in the squat rack and capitalizing on that. So if our program called for like a back squat, well, then we just need a squat pattern. There's a cajillion squats you can do, okay? So don't get hung up on the exercise itself so much, but more the patterning of the exercise, okay? So, how does SHTF.FITNESS help you be fit for life? Well, ultimately, I'm just trying to remove the barriers to your success through my services, okay? So, I give you accountability. I'm gonna give you daily messages through my app. I'm gonna check up with you before and after your workouts and see how that's all going for you. We give custom workout plans. So that means I'm going to screen you, at a minimum, interview you, but generally screen your movement capabilities and then build you a program based on that. Because I don't want to ask you to do something that's going to be injurious to you, right? Or something that you're not ready to do yet. So every program is built for you rather than here's generic cookie cutter thing, go for it. We give you workout instructional videos on the app and on my Instagram, just a bunch of them all the time. So you would just click on it, it would demonstrate the video for you, so it makes it very simple to do while you're actually in the gym or what have you. We give you nutritional advice and support if you are trying to lose weight or if you're trying to bulk up, conversely. They're all good goals to have, and we can help get you in that right direction because I've been doing this for 10 years now. I know it works and what doesn't. We give you progress tracking, which is done through the app, but again, going to just making sure we do a little bit more work each time. The app tracks that for you, so it makes it even easier. And we're going to give you that mental and emotional support that you would need to be successful. Okay, we're that accountability partner and friend that's in your corner. Okay, so that's what I do. I want to just use the rest of the time for questions and answers because there's usually quite a bit of questions when it comes to fitness stuff. So.
If you start out with a sore shoulder, like my left shoulder, I don't know if I tore something or what it was, but it's painful right now in certain movements, and it crunches like popcorn. But how would you work out something like that to try maybe building up that muscle or?
Well, that is more of an alignment issue than a muscle issue. Okay, so it's not. From some personal trainers, you're going to get, oh, well, this or that is weak and blah, blah, blah. That's not actually the case, okay? It's always an alignment and structural issue. So, like if I had you in person, I could actually evaluate you and see how I could help. If we were doing it virtually, I'd get you on a Zoom call and we just check your range of motion. I'd walk you through some things and then see if that helps. Shoulders are kind of a bugaboo for a lot of people. Again, it's because of our sitting lifestyle. Okay. So one thing you can focus on without me seeing you is just the alignment of your core. Okay. There's this old training principle that your proximal stability yields distal mobility. Okay. So the better aligned your head, neck, and thorax are, the better your shoulder is going to feel, and the more mobility you're going to get out of it. So I would start by doing, some kind of plank or ab work and stuff like that. Any kind of reaching that you can do is going to help the shoulder. And if you can actually hang from something and do a dead hang, if your shoulder's not really terrible yet, then that'll help too. So it's kind of some simple stuff you can work on.
Boone, we got to wrap her up here.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Hate to do it, but if anybody's got more questions, I'm sure he would be
Or if
more
you have
than
any
happy.
parting thoughts that you want to share now that you know that you got to wrap it up, like,
You don't
Parting
have to
thoughts.
stop talking instantly.
Yeah. Parting thoughts. I would just
Party
encourage.
sauce or party sauce?
I'll just encourage everybody to actually take your health and fitness personally, and like really internalize it and pay attention to it. You can have all the prepper gear that you could ever want and the best homestead ever, but if you're unhealthy, you're gonna run into big trouble. I mean, your quality of life is gonna suffer. So just take it seriously, even if you're not working with me. Cool, God bless you. Go for it. And I'd be happy to answer anybody's emails. If you want to email me, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or just come yell at me.
All right. Stephen Boone. We're going to take like 10 minutes before our next presenter. We've got Andy Kaufman, right?